Right, welcome back to another edition of Scaling Secrets. I am your host, Alex Mahaz, and today we have a true sales expert joining us on the show. Please give a warm welcome to Jake Dunlap, the CEO of Scaled and the industry-leading expert on modern sales and revenue trends. Jake's expertise has been recognized globally as he's worked with top companies like Microsoft, Splunk, NFL, and the NBA, driving hundreds of millions of dollars in new revenue each year. With his MBA in international business and 20 years of sales and revenue leadership experience, Jake is a trusted advisor to top VPs of sales across the whole world. His insights have been featured in Forbes, Huffington Post, and even on the GaryVee audio experience. Get ready as we dive into the world of all things sales. Welcome to the show, Jake.
Amazing. I like it, man. That's a good hype man intro there. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the conversation and sharing my wins, what I've learned, and also the mistakes, which is unfortunately, I wish we could just only learn through successes. That'd be pretty sweet.
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
Oh man, you're telling me. You're right. It's some of the biggest lessons in life we learn from mistakes. It's like, you don't realize it till hindsight, but
yeah, exactly.
If only we could get the good things. But yeah, let's jump right into it. Obviously, you've been recognized at least recently as, the only CEO in the latest top voices for sales list on LinkedIn. So I'm really excited, dive into that. What do you think, really sets you apart from other sales leaders and really allows you to, consistently drive results for your clients?
I think it starts with passion, meaning I love sales. I love where sales is going. I love the future of sales. I love talking about sales. And it's truly one of those scenarios where if you align things that you enjoy talking about to what you do every day, then it doesn't become, that's work. There's definitely elements of work. Don't get me wrong. I've got, 30 plus people on payroll. I'm not just like a pure figurehead top voice type. But I think that's where the engine starts, right? It's like if you're not passionate about whatever your business is and what it solves, it's going to be tough to keep it cranking on those hard days. And where sales is headed, we're one of the leaders talking about generative AI and ChatGPT and what does this mean for the future of B2B sales in particular? These are things that just, they get me fired up and motivated. And I'm excited to watch how sales continues to evolve, over the next 5 to 10 years. I think it's going to be a pretty big shift.
Yeah, definitely. And I completely agree. You got to be passionate about it. And I think there's so many, obviously, gurus out there that say, you need to follow your passion. And I think it definitely relates, especially when you're starting a business and you're scaling the business the first couple of years. If you hate it, if you don't like the industry you're in and you're just trying to make money, it's going to be really hard to get through the dog days.
Exactly. And also, and I'll add something else to that too. I wasn't one of those people who thought I would start my own company. I never was like, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. It's interesting. My grandpa was, and I kind of looked up to him. And if you look at the career choices I made, I kind of always was in at the ground floor of a new division of a big company or working on a small team. So I had kind of these hints, I guess, at certain points in my life and career, but I never really thought about, like becoming an, entrepreneur. And so because of that, and this is something I'll tell a lot of people, I developed a deep expertise at a skill. Right, which is sales. I was, top manager for multiple years at a large company. I then was the youngest national account rep at a company that closed deals with Intel at age 29. And I think that too many people today they get like 2 years of experience and they're like, I'm going to consult, or I'm going to go be an entrepreneur.
Yep, I'm a professional now.
Dude, you finally found out where the lights were to go to the bathroom. And I think a lot of people, I'm totally fine. If you want to be a jack of all trades, amazing, go for it. But I do feel like it is easier to become an entrepreneur if you're aligning to something that you love and something that you're good at, right? And not just good at in your own mind. You've got a track record that's longer than 16 months that says you are good at this. And that would be kind of my other kind of twin to passion, which is, really enjoying getting better at whatever the craft is. Because I think that's really important.
Definitely. No, even today's young entrepreneur era where, you see that that kid that drop ships off a beach and makes his first 20K a month or whatever it is, and now he's got a course all of a sudden teaching that. So it's tough, yeah, to really kind of find that really understanding of what true expert in their industry. But I'm curious,
cool.
Like in the beginning days of your sales career, what were some of those like initial challenges or like hurdles with just selling and like building that skill?
I mean, I was, again, there's a lot of happy accidents early. Like I had to work in college, right? I didn't have everything paid for, and I worked 30 plus hours a week and went to college full time. And so one of the more lucrative jobs at one point in my career was telemarketing, and so I learned a lot of processes and techniques, etc. And that really allowed me to come into the professional world. I actually had real world experience, and I kind of, I immediately started doing better than my peers, and like very rapidly. When I was in Major League Baseball, my first job was with the Tampa Bay Rays. I went from group sales to account executive to senior account executive to me and another guy running the inside sales team in 16 months. And I was a student of the game. Like I read a ton of books. I listened to what other people said that were working, and I borrowed it. So I think unlike a lot of sellers who are like, I've got my process, I like to have conversations, I was the opposite. I knew I already had the ability to get uncomfortable. That's what telemarketing helped me to develop, which is a skill in its own. But the techniques and what to do, I had very little ego about it. And so I was always willing to iterate and try new things, etc. And then when I was 26 is when it really, I had this kind of raw sales technique ability, you could call it. But it was when I was 26, I went to a larger company. I was in a training class. I think it was like 7 or 8 of us. And I was the second to last person. I hadn't sold anything. And I'd been on the floor for 3 or 4 weeks. And I'm like, man, what's going on? I'm Jake Dunlap. I'm God's gift to sales here. Thought I'd be crushing this, thing. And my director, my boss's boss, I've told this story a few times, pulled me in a room and he listened to one of my calls and he said, Jake, let me ask you this. He goes, why aren't you following the script and like their process that they had, right? I said, come on, man, script. Like I'm not blah. He goes, Jake. He goes, do you think we're stupid? He goes, do you think we train 1,000 people on a process that does not work? And, I'm like, well, probably not. He goes, dude, just drink the Kool-Aid and try it and do it. And sure enough, I closed $60,000 in new business the next month. And then within 3 months, I got promoted to leadership. And so that taught me the process side of sales. And so I think, and then always keeping both of those in mind, being hungry to learn more, new techniques, new strategies for unlocking bigger accounts or moving deals faster, coupled with, hey, am I analyzing the steps of what myself and my teams are doing so I can fix gaps or things that are happening so we can increase our sales performance? So that combination of continuing to get better at the techniques and the process of sales, and then continuing to hone in on how do you make those more and more repeatable, and using data to make informed decisions on where you optimize. So I think those were some of the skill sets I had early, and some I guess call it early evolution as a sales professional and leader.
Yeah, no, and in any industry, that's so important to have some type of metric that you're measuring. You look at the data, understand where you're coming up short, and analyze that. Even if you do have a gift in sales or whatever it is, marketing, still, look at the facts and look at, how other people are doing it, and tie that into some type of metric. So I love that. And so, obviously, you focus a lot on like growth and retention. That's really big for you. Can you share some like innovative strategies or tactics that you've seen work really effective in these areas?
Oh, you cut out. I think you froze. All right, you're back.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Gotcha.
It just froze for a second.
Okay. Yeah, we're chopping in and out, but so one of the key areas you focus on is growth and retention. So can you just dive into some of the innovative strategies that you've seen work in these areas?
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, when it comes to growth, the numbers are pretty scary. Meaning, last year it was like 17% of companies hit their like outbound meeting goals. And I got to tell you, the reasons are pretty simple. We started in sales once we started to get technology to create a mindset that in order for something to be scalable, it had to be automated. And what that did is create this mindset with sales leaders like, hey, just just do more activities. And it's not working. And so the reality today is the teams that are actually hitting numbers, they're leveraging ChatGPT to put together very interesting industry trends, snippets, things that could be interesting for a persona in a sub industry. They're really focused on being relevant and personalized. And that puts you in the top like 5%. Again, as somebody who gets tens and tens of emails every week, probably I don't get one personalized email a week would be my guess. I get, you might say I'm the CEO of a consulting company. That's not personalization. That's not relevancy. Relevancy is, Jake, look, I know you're running a revenue consulting company. Typically, you're probably thinking about these two challenges because I know what you do as the CEO. I get one of those a month, maybe. So it doesn't take that much to cut through the noise right now. You just have to unanchor for this idea of like, it's a bad process if it's not automated. That's not true. Tesla still has people on their car production line. Every major product you buy is most likely a human in the loop. It is okay to have humans in the loop for quality control. That's what every major company does. So you need to take the same kind of approach to your outbound. And there's ways that you can build that in as a part of it. And then churn is, I'm not going to say it's pretty simple, but I will tell you that there's some very normal culprits. Why people are losing customers is they don't have consistent, proactive touch points with their customers. That the only time they really talk to their customers is when they have a problem. And they don't say, hey, our tier one clients, we're going to make sure once a month, and we're not reaching out, and we do workshops around with teams on this concept of like, we are never reaching out to our customers to touch base, catch up, or check in. We are reaching out to add value around some topic. We're also not reaching out to pitch every single time either. And so, hey, my tier ones, we have 14 proactive touch points where we do this throughout the year. And then we start the renewal process 120 days. We call it the 120-day renewal process. Our tier twos, okay, well, maybe we're going to touch them 6 times this year. So I would say if you want to reduce churn, you want to keep more customers, build in proactive touch points of where your team's adding value on a consistent basis, and that'll do it. That will make it
definitely
happen. That will make it happen.
And it's like, it's surprising now so many people don't follow up, and especially with sales, those touch points are so important, not only to close the deal, but to build a relationship even after the deal's already closed. If you don't have a relationship with somebody, no matter what industry you're in, it's going to go south one way or another. And I think it's harder, like you went into, with all the automation now that we have, but still, getting on the phone and doing some type of follow-up can go a long way.
Totally. Yeah.
But no, so like performance management obviously is crucial for any sales organization. I'm curious, Jake, like what are some of the key elements or best practices you would recommend a sales professional looking to manage and motivate a sales team to really achieve peak performance?
Well, one is you got to make sure your data is accurate. As somebody who I've posted about this before, I never had to have a boss tell me to enter my data in when I was a rep, because I wanted to enter my data in so I could get better. Because if I didn't know where the steps in the process where my deal's going long, compared to my peers who might be doing it better, how can I get better? And so, it's part of it starts with data, is getting your team rallied around, hey, you're not entering in data. Hopefully you can have tools that will do most of the work for you. That's step one. Step two is like, look, this is about you improving your own performance. Because if we can see what your sales cycle looks like compared to your peers, hey, Jake, you're going longer in step 3 than these 3 reps. Go find out what they're doing. Now, boom, Jake, you just shorten your sales cycle by 20%. And so I think that concept of like becoming a data-led leader versus gut leader is one, and I'll give 2 more. Number 2 is your job as a leader is to coach, not give advice 24/7. So many sales leaders, they think their job is to like give advice. Oh yeah, here's what here's what happened, or okay, cool, here's what you should do. And look, I get it, it's faster, but you nurture dependency. You will not be able to build a self-sustaining team if you don't know how to coach. Coaches ask questions. Coaches don't. Mentors give advice and tell you what they did. Coaches ask questions. And so you got to make sure that you're doing those things, as a part of it. And that goes to kind of number 3, which is manage the individual. That each person on your team is going to be good at certain things and, need work on certain things. So you need to make sure you have development plans that are different for different people. And ChatGPT is actually extremely good at this. You can go to ChatGPT. Hey, ChatGPT, I'm really struggling. I've got a rep who needs to get better at executive conversations. We sell to industrial manufacturing companies that have about 200 employees. Our average sales price is $300K, and we got to talk to the CFO a lot about ROI. Help me to build a 4-week training program with 30-minute agendas to help Timmy get better at having executive conversations with the CFO in real time. And so, you can now build these. There's really no excuse now not to coach the individual, because ChatGPT can really help you to build pretty amazing customized plans that you can then tweak. Versus before, you maybe had to think of a few hours to just come up with one plan for one person. Now I can get thoughts on the plan first, and then tweak it, and then it becomes like a really awesome plan. So, those are my kind of 3. If you want to be a great sales leader, those are the must-haves.
Yeah, no, I love it. And yeah, like you said, coaches ask questions. They want to try to bring out the best in somebody else. And I think as a leader too, that's so important, especially if you're just starting your business. If you're looking to scale your company and you're starting out, you got a couple people on your sales force. You want to make sure that what they're best at, and really hone in on that, and focus on their strengths, and as a leader, bring that out of them, and really get in the trenches with them too. Would you recommend taking sales calls with your team, having them listen in on some of your calls too? Is that something you've seen?
Yes, with a couple caveats here. Your job is not to be the hero. And most sales leaders get on a call and they're going to be the hero. My friends, if you are always the hero leader, it's a very specific sales persona leader, or leader persona. It's probably the most common. Your team will always depend on you to close deals. So sometimes leading from the front is not leading. It is letting people fail. It is watching them go and do it and being there to support so they don't fall down flat. It's why with my team, before we have calls where there's multiple people with different levels, we assign roles. So if I'm, again, I think of this when I'm a manager, you had 3 levels of leadership, of you as a new rep. Step 1 is you're going to join the call. You're going to watch me lead. Step 2 is I'm going to watch you go, and we'll talk 50. And then 3 is you're going to lead, and I'm going to add just a couple little notes here or there. And then you're ready to go on your own. But my job is to teach you how to do it, not take over your meetings for you. You are not a good leader if you are taking over your team's meetings consistently. You're a superstar sales rep. And that's cool. But just understand the difference between leadership and coaching and being a superstar sales rep who likes to give advice, which is what, a lot of sales leaders are that. That was one part of your question, which is again leading from the front. That was one part of your question, which is again look, I do think a sales leader needs to be able to flex and needs to be able to show up in big meetings, but that is in a limited capacity versus the default.
Definitely. Yep, and you got to balance when the right time to pull that out of the closet is, and
prep.
Like you said,
but that comes to prep. When I met with my reps beforehand, they knew, because here's what happens: managers, leaders, and their reps don't prep before the call. They say, "Okay, you're going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this." And so what happens is the manager just doesn't know when they're supposed to jump in, and they just jump in. And so you just have to strip the meeting out, and you have to. And sometimes as a leader, you just have to sit there, man. And again, it goes. You and I were talking about this right before we started recording, and I said it sucks that maybe it was whenever we kicked it off. I said the only way we learn is through failure, right? My friends, if you are robbing your sales team of failure, you are robbing them of growth. And so if every time you jump in and your captain save a deal, then you are robbing your people from growth, and you are ensuring that they will always be dependent on you. And that is not leadership.
Not at all. And it's almost a form of, micromanagement too. It's you can't do everything for your team. You have to let them learn, and you have to give them and equip them with the right skills to get where they're going. So yeah, you definitely nailed that. But obviously you talk a lot about intent-based sales too, and that's a huge concept within your company. Can you explain, what that means specifically and how, sales professionals can leverage and improve their results?
Yeah, definitely. And make sure you check out April 9th, book drops with Wiley, Innovative Seller. And we'll put the pre-sales, make sure please pre-order. We've got the community coming out. We've got the Innovative Seller Summit coming up that you can get free access to just for buying the book, which is pretty cool. Plug really quick there, because one of the core tenets is this concept of customized sales journey. And really what this means is let's think about, I want everyone right now, I want you to think about how you bought things in 2014. Okay. Amazon Prime next day? Nope. Netflix streaming? Yeah, kinda. All this other streaming? Nope. Think about online buying. No, you probably still went to stores a little bit here or there. Okay, now fast forward to today. One click to buy on TikTok. You have 95 streaming options. If it doesn't show up next day, I'm picking some other product that isn't even the product that I wanted, but it's close enough. We expect to get educated on products on our own terms, and we expect a sales process that is frictionless. B2B sales is archaic. It runs the same process it did in 1996. It's a one size fits all. And even if you're super educated, you start at the very beginning. You're using by competition. You've already looked at pricing. You've already got budget. You start at step 0. That is what we've got to end. We have to understand people's different intent/education level. We call it VEX, which is how do we deal with vetted buyers? How do we deal with educated buyers? How do we deal with cold buyers? And do we offer a self-service option? And every company has to have all three. How do we get those people? How do we understand before we get on that first call, like, oh, crap, Jake's ready to go. Let's go ahead. This first call, we're going to have the customer success person on the call. We're going to have these people on the call. Like, we're fast tracking. Because I can tell you right now, there's nothing more frustrating. Go talk to an executive buyer and ask them how. My wife's a perfect example of this. My wife is in the process of buying a tool right now for her. She runs part of HR for a publicly traded company. And she's like, Jake, I almost do not want to buy this. The sales team is so horrible. She's like, they're not listening. Like, we're telling them where we are. And it's because we're forcing every customer, no matter what their education level is, through the same process. And buyers are sick of it because we're getting trained more and more in our B2C life of instant. Give me that thing. Where's my pre-recorded demo I can go watch on my own? Where's my, where's pricing? We're going to see pricing up front. So all of those are really important things that I think when we think about this idea of custom sales journeys, every company has got to implement a process to either fast track sales or even slow track if people, in the buying team are not moving fast enough. But that's the core tenet. Like I said, we talk a lot about it in the book. And if you join the book, you join the community, there's a lot of content we have in there about it too.
Yep. Speed is everything. And if you're not moving quick, your competitors will be in a heartbeat and get your product in the hands of your customers faster than you can even think. So yeah, definitely. And I want to, piggyback off of that or, elaborate more. Obviously technology too is playing a huge part in just, optimizing speed and sales. What are some of, like those, technology tools that you've seen, really increase revenue over the last few years without the need of additional headcount?
Yeah, there's a few that are kind of in our go-to. Like, one is you need a data source. So there's tools like Cognizant or ZoomInfo that you might look at them as expensive, but at the end of the day, they are they can save you a ton of time because your team's not trying to find who to reach out to. Then there's platforms of action like Outreach is a big one, Salesloft. And these are tools where I can put people into the sequence. And step 1 is connect on LinkedIn. Step 2 is send a personalized email. Step 3 is call. Step 4 is call. Step 5 is send a message on LinkedIn. So I can kind of create these very customized experiences in reaching out to people and not have to remember who to reach out to. And then ChatGPT would be the other one. Like I said, we built a whole bunch of custom GPTs. We'll send a link. We'll put some links in the show notes too for everyone on some of like the different things they can go check out around some of the workshops we have and other things as well. But as a professional, not just sales professional, you need to learn how to manipulate ChatGPT. It is a skill set. We have been trained since probably for most of you, your entire life, even your college life and high school life, you have been trained to interact with technology in very broken sentences via Google or YouTube. you type in like 4 words because it can't handle anything more than that. And so you have to now shift the entire way you think about decision making. Instead of searching, you can talk to something like it's a real person, and it can give you a very complex answer. That's really good. And so ChatGPT would be the other one that, if you're not investing now, you absolutely, I fired myself for almost a week back in the summer, and I'm like, I got to figure this out. And it was the best decision I ever made. And every professional needs to do that right now too.
Completely agree. And so much that ChatGPT could do, just, even like you said, you were working on a PowerPoint, last week, before we started recording, and, that like putting things into a PowerPoint or a spreadsheet, like it will give you ideas and things that you might not even, thought of. And it's just going to save your time. So, especially when you're starting to scale a company, utilize all these tools. But looking ahead, where do you see, Jake, really the future of sales? What are some emerging trends or strategies, sales leaders could start incorporating in 2024?
Yep. Well, I gave you a couple there, right? This idea of what's my journey. So just doing a customer journey map and saying, hey, how could we adjust what we're doing to meet people better where they are and get them to the right stage? That's certainly one. ChatGPT, and hopefully I've got you excited or scared or somewhere in between on that. I think it's about, if your team is hitting Sindal, if your team is not being trained on how to communicate to a persona, to an industry, and become experts, people don't want to have the conversation. The stats, I can't remember the stat I saw. I think it's like 19% of people want to have like a first call with a salesperson versus like learn on their own or something like that. And then I think there's another stat about like, 40 something percent of millennials would prefer to like not ever deal with a salesperson. And McKinsey had one like, I think like 25% of people are willing to make a self-purchase or like minimal sales interaction, like up to 50K. So what are these trends telling you? They're telling you a few things. One, is your sales team really adding any incremental value? And if not, wow, you better figure out how to make them do that. And two, we've got to have more digital ways for people to get educated on what we do. We need to make sure we have things like demos online that people can look at. Maybe it's differentiated demos. Maybe it's like a demo that this one's for a CFO, this one's for your IT person, this one's for the marketing person. So we've got to have more digital experiences where people can self-guide, scroll, be transparent with pricing, and make sure that when sales does get in the loop, like you got to be very honest with yourself. If I was a buyer, would I get excited about this? Am I like, holy crap, this person's really smart, I'm really excited for this conversation? Or would I be like, oh my God, dude, I already know all of this. Why are we having this conversation? You know what I mean? Exactly. So like, yeah. That's the high level on, I think, what's next agree. For people.
Yeah. And I think, it also too leveraging your peers and other professionals, whether that's CEOs or people in your industry, leverage what they're doing and try to get an advantage some way or another. That's just help you long term.
Exactly.
But I got a few more questions, and then I'll save some time. We end usually with like some rapid fire questions. So, but in terms of, scaled consulting, obviously as a CEO, you help VPs of sales, business leaders navigate, all the complexities of scaling quickly. So can you share, some of your key insights or frameworks from your modern sales framework that really can help our listeners achieve growth with just improving their sales skills?
Yeah, I'll talk about our intent process, which is really candidly the most modern, acronym out there. Intent, INTENT, right? So intent, letter N, tent. And really what it means is in is next steps. One of the biggest reasons that people lose deals is they do not talk about the next, they don't drive next steps. Right now, more people lose to no decision than any competitor. And it's because, people are inundated. They've got so much work on their plate. So if you as a sales organization aren't driving, we call it the next steps and the next. And hey, after this conversation, we're going to do this. If that goes well, we'll do this. Getting them in the process, next steps. You have to make sure that you're driving next steps. Number two, the T is for team. This idea of one champion, one buyer, one decision maker is archaic. And nobody buys, like, I think Gartner said that there's like 7 people involved. So you need to know, what are the 2 teams? There's an end user team, the people that are going to use the product and making sure they love it. Okay, are they engaged? Do they believe that we're going to drive, impact in their day-to-day? And then there's the impact and ROI team. Are we presenting a good business case? They can see how this will impact the business. There are 2 teams involved in every deal, and your sales team has to manage both those work streams. The second E then in intent is then education, and that's that vets, right? Vet, hold, and self-service. Do you have a way to move people through the process and understand, hey, this person's at that educated stage, this person's vetted, so hey, they should be moving faster, etc. The second in intent is numerical priority, and this is a big one. Everyone talks about needs. Identify needs, identify pains. Look, if I ask you, like, hey, do you want a Ferrari? Like, yeah, I could use a Ferrari. Like, you don't know what numerical priority that is for me. And so organizations have to get better at saying, hey, is this a top 2 priority, a top 3? If you're not a top 3 and borderline top 5 on an edge case, your deal's probably not getting done. So if you don't understand what numerical priority the problem you solve is for this organization, and instead you just uncover needs, you're going to get a ton of false positives. So in today's more complex, you got to understand numerical priority. And the final T is time to impact. Too many sales orgs, they engineer around, oh, the deal goes away on January 31st. And they care about the contract. The customer doesn't care about the contract. They care about the time to impact. So does your sales team engineer toward, like, look, this has to get signed now because you need to see the impact by April 1st, and we're not going to be able to see the impact till then. And so you've got to align to what the customer cares about, which is time to impact. So that's, again, next steps, driving next steps. Team, who are the 2 teams that are involved, and are you helping drive next steps with those folks? Education level, numerical priority, and time to impact. Those are that simple framework help you to close more deals, because you're going to meet customers with like a more modern approach, because that's where they are today. That's what they care about. That's how they buy today, not some of the more kind of 1996 like finding the pain points, finding the pain processes and methodologies.
That's a really interesting, approach, how you breaking up the teams like that. Because not a lot of sales professionals talk like that, but it's true. It's something you got to know the decision maker and exactly like who's going to actually be using the product.
The decision maker isn't that one person. Like, sure, Johnny signed, but Johnny looks at his team.
But the decision maker isn't that one person. Like, sure, Johnny signs, but Johnny looks at his team, and Tina, who is always negative, Tina's the real decision maker because she's going to shoot the deal down. And so, like, this whole concept of over focusing on like the decision maker is a massive mistake in today's buying climate. When people used to write checks for $50K without talking to other people, it was fine. But Tina is the decision maker, even though John might sign the contract. And that's what most sales like completely. Again, Medic, which is a popular one, that shit was literally developed in 1996. The internet, man, was barely out in 1996. Definitely. And so, like, the way that we
you might even know, for your example, really Tina even
we
exists.
Gotta catch up.
Like, you might not even know she's there. So it's like you gotta dig very deep, discover
exactly
the layers for that. So I love it. I want to save a little bit of time here to get into some rapid fire questions. Just about sales, entrepreneurship, and life. The first one is
I gotta run. 3 minutes.
Okay, sounds good. Awesome. Yeah,
man. We'll you can edit this
what
out. I got to run in
what
like
are
3
the
minutes.
key attributes
3 or 4 minutes
of a successful entrepreneur?
Cool.
Vision, clear vision, who you are, and more importantly, who you're not.
Vision, clear vision, who you are, and more importantly, who you're not. Building the right team around you. And look, that could be one person, it could be part-time people, it could be building an exec team with ChatGPT. A friend of mine did that, but you need surround people that are better at you than certain things, or even like adequately, better than you at certain things. And then the ability to execute and stick with it, but if you don't have a clear vision of where you're going and who you want to be and not want to be, you don't have any of the right people around you, and you're not willing to kick it into that extra gear to really grind for months or years to make it happen, it's tough to be successful. That's right, man. People track too much crap. They're like, we need to track this. We see this all the time, right? Companies doing 20, 50, 100 million. Jake, we need to be able to track this, and this. And the question becomes, what are you going to do about it? What's your cool. You track all this stuff. You think you want to like what are you going to do? Do you even have the team that can fix it? So I think some companies track too much stuff. And 2 is however long you think change is going to take, double it. You're like, hey, we're going to implement this new tool, this new process. And we want to, no. People, I wish you could just, it was like, the Matrix. You plugged in something and somebody automatically changed behavior and knew how to karate or whatever, right? But change takes time. However long you think you need to get impact, double it. Those would be 2 really quick tactical ones. And look, there's a lot of really good advice that I've been given and things that have impacted. I kind of shared that one about the sales process that, Evan Ross gave me. I'll shout out GaryVee. Positivity, man, and abundance mindset that, who cares what the competition's doing, man? Who cares if, look, you think you're 35 and you think you should have made it when you're 25? Who cares? Johnny Smith's out here bragging that he's making $25K, $50K a month on mailbox money. Stop comparing yourself. Like, you got to figure out your own lane. Each person's path's different, and don't get hooked on the outliers. Most people are just fronting anyway. And so I think that idea of positivity, stay in your own lane, the GaryVee message, I think is something that can resonate with any entrepreneur.